to tell you, excuse me, but I'm going to tell you, you're going to see the day when they are going to bring those lights in there, bleachers in there, and they're going to bring, and there's all out of state motorcycles coming in there. They're all out of state.
And there's campers galore that park there on the weekends. They're all heavily decaled with their
Oh, yeah.
insignias that they have on there for racing. And they're not local trailers, I can tell you that.
When it comes
There's
to
a
these,
number of them that are parked there. and
when
it's
it
not
comes to
fair.
the citizens of this town, they don't, you're not there to help us. You're not there to help us. I had to fight my way myself when they wanted to put a girls' home. I had to fight it. Me and Linda Hahn fought it ourselves. We pounded the pavement and got petitions, and we got that out. We got it out because the city refused to help us with it. And I'm told, don't bother them. Don't bother them. That man's got money, so no matter what you do, you're not going to get nowhere. So I got to live with it, right? I have to live with it. Come and sit in my backyard. Come and sit in my backyard and see what it sounds like. When I used to be able to sit and listen to the birds and be nice and quiet in my backyard, but I have to sit there now and I have to listen to motorcycles.
If I could say something, the county, I mean, noise complaints are not uncommon in many municipalities, particularly small, ones that have smaller lots than you folks have. If there's a noise violation going on there, that's something that the county can investigate. They have noise meters, there's decibel levels.
Mr. Lafferty, excuse me, they told us that they can't do that because they don't have anybody to operate those meters. So they won't do it.
Well, they used to have, I don't know.
They won't
No,
do it.
we looked into it and it's costly, but that wasn't the reason we didn't do it. The reason we didn't do it is because on the advice of the zoning officers that experience doing it in the past, noise studies, and it's not, you hire engineers to do it for you. You can't do it yourself because then the conclusions are viewed as being biased. You have to hire a noise engineer that does recordings and analyzes it and interprets it and all that kind of stuff. And it costs money, but that's not the reason we didn't do it. The reason we didn't do it is because the people who were supposed to know about this stuff, who went over there and had some experience with it, said it's just not loud enough. It's gotta be 90 decibels at the place where you're here, where you're annoyed by it.
It's in my backyard, Nelson. It's in my backyard. So
I've been
it's
over-
close
I've been over
enough to
listening
me.
it with you.
It's
I-
close enough to me. And now they're not running it in the pit as much, they're running it in the front field. So that's even worse. That's worse.
Well, if it's changed, maybe it's loud enough now.
I can't do it by myself.
No, I don't.
I can't do it by myself. I need the city to help me, and they didn't help me. They didn't help me, they didn't do nothing to help me.
Anyone else in the public? Mr. Vander?
Anything on Fifth Avenue paving?
We did discuss that tonight. We're still on hold with the Pinelands, waiting for them to finalize whatever is supposed to be done with this water retention issue. Water,
Okay.
water basin. Hopefully we will get an information for them soon enough so that we can then put this out to bid and have that road asphalted. But yes, I'm aware that there is a situation over there. It's not gonna rain forever. We're gonna have some rain tomorrow, so you won't have the dust problem, but unfortunately, Pinelands has got us on hold. Mr. Gosling?
Yeah, I'm glad Mr. Vander's here to talk about the Fifth Ave project. My friend and neighbor. Your decision and your reasoning for not looking at a roads project on 16th Avenue is just simply not fair to the man that lives at the end of 16th Avenue. Mr. Vander can tell you what it's like to wait for a road to come to his house. He's been waiting for the road at Fifth Avenue to come to him for many, many years. And your basis for, we're gonna open the road up for lots in between Route 50 and that man's house on 16th Avenue, I'm sorry to tell you, Mr. Vander, but you're gonna have people driving past you now on 5th Avenue once they improve 5th Avenue down to you. Because those lots that are behind you that are private property are gonna become more valuable for development. So your whole basis for that was flawed. Just ask you to reconsider the next time we're looking at grants, maybe in the sense of just some egalitarianism that the man at the end of 16th Avenue might be considered. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm looking forward to 5th Avenue being improved too, because it'll keep the dust down in my house. I'm at the beginning of that project, and I do look forward to it. And we are sensitive to the drainage, and I do want Pinelands to make sure that that drainage is right, because it's not gonna flood Mr. Vander's property. It is gonna flood mine if it's not right. But I wish us both a lot of luck.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Vogt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two things, and I know this is something that my friend Mr. Goss and I will probably disagree on, but in a long-term land use planning issue, you may want to consider vacating the paper streets that don't already have someone on them. That would avoid or at least minimize the possibility of someone being told, oh yes, that is a street, that'll be built tomorrow, et cetera, go buy it, it's fine. And then they come here and say, what happened? And I'm not saying that with Mr. Vander even, but just because we've got a bunch of other paper streets out there that sometimes people start to think, oh, I can go do something with that. And that doesn't mean that they can never be done. It's just that then they would have to come to the planning board. They would have to go through that process knowing that it's not done. And everyone would then have to agree on what is going to be done, on what timeline. So therefore, no, it's not completely built before the house is done, because then they're running back and forth with construction vehicles. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But it would also be in a process that can be worked on. But also, notice this evening how many times you have been concerned, shocked, disappointed with Pineland's actions or concerned about them, and those are in writing. And so I'm just going back to the thing with the landfill. I hope it all works out. But you have nothing in, and I'm not asking for a writing of, well, if we do this, will you approve it? That's a caricature of what I said. But if you provided, here's what we want you to do, but we're going to go do something different, asking, will you accept that in lieu of, is a very valid question. And I really do hope that it doesn't wind up being Thanksgiving and we wind up getting told, oh, more time, more money, but it just happens to be after the middle of November, because the 11th month has no other consequence. But just keep that in mind. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, Mrs. Master, welcome. Hopefully you'll still feel this way in a few months. I say that to every new person. So,
Anyone else?
Yes.
Mrs. Councilman.
I just want to say welcome too. Thank you for being willing to do this. It's a wonderful thing to see your smiling face up there and two women right there together. Very nice. Way over there. Yes, way over there.
I'm a woman. You could mention that I think it historically is that this is the first time it's been a majority of the council.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that, but I just.
Sometimes she allows me to help.
It's the hair, I know. Yes,
Anyone else in the
so glad you're there too. Yes, yes, yes.
I have something I want to say in the public, Mayor.
Wait, do you need something?
I was just gonna ask for a motion to adjourn.
Is there anyone else in the public? Motion to close the meeting to the public.
I have
Mr.
something to
Jones
say.
has something.
We've gone over this in the past.
And you lose every time, so why are you
Right.
doing
Mr.
it
Dillon,
again?
you're a member of the city council, you're not a
And
member of the public.
public.
I read something recently about the migration out of cities and urban centers as a result of the pandemic and the effect that it's having on small communities all over the United States. And how people from cities are moving into small towns like Estell Manor, and developers and slicksters, if you will, are coming around and trying to make the most of the kind of the good characteristics of towns like ours. And if you look closely enough, we're suffering that to some extent. We've had, depending on how you look at things and how you interpret them, we've had an attempt at cluster housing down on 50. We've had an attempt at somebody trying to establish a street where there wasn't one in the village section. We've got, this thing with somebody demolishing a house one like that, pulling a roof repair permit and then demolishing the house thinking they were gonna build a new one. And the good news about all of the kind of intervention in all of those cases is that some resident of Estell Manor, for the most part, stood up and said, hold it a minute, what's going on? Because we've so long kind of stayed out of each other's business and allowed each other the liberty and freedom that we come out there for, it's easier for people from other places to do those kinds of things to us. They're not doing them with us, they're not doing them for us, they're doing those things to us. So I would just say to, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but maybe somebody on Facebook will see it once Mr. Pope puts it up. We need to pay attention to what's going on in our neighborhoods and on our blocks and around our houses and with our neighbors. And when we see things that are odd as it relates to property development and lot clearing and that kind of stuff, you need to get it to the zoning officer. We need to stop this stuff. Or Estell Manor's not gonna be what we've come to know and love for all these years. I mean, everybody looking at it now has been here for decades. It's not gonna be what we've known it to be. It's not. That would be a shame. Thank you.
Motion to close the meeting to the public,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.